Black women, we keep it moving, we're resilient, and we want to achieve success because our success is the success of many others besides ourselves.
Black women, they've been the backbone of our personal lives, our professional lives.
One word I would use to describe the contributions of Black women at Citi is sisterhood.
Transformative.
Tremendous.
Adaptable.
Game changers.
Committed.
Graceful excellence.
Tenacity. Yes. They represent excellence. They inspire people. Black women deliver to the businesses.
As I think about and I look at a lot of the Black MDs and the Ds at Citi, they empower those of us who are trying to get to where they are in their actions, in their talk. So they are empowering the next generation.
It's my responsibility to make sure that, for the ones that are coming up behind me, they don't see the barriers at all.
I believe very firmly that any time that I walk through a door, that I'm going to leave it open for someone else.
I hope the message is, if I can, you can.
I think would be great for corporate America to understand and be aware of and to appreciate is that the Black experience in and of itself is an asset. And it's an asset because of the struggles, how hard it was to get where the people get, or how hard it is to sort of go up the ladder, the obstacles that you had to get through to get there. Gave you different experience, gave you experience with more challenging items that may happen in a corporate environment, so that by the time you get there, you can do anything. You can handle just about anything. And I think that's different. I think that's different because of the shared experience of just being a Black person in America and trying to make that work and trying to find some success and deal with the obstacles that get placed in. I mean, make no mistake, it is still a thing. It is still not easy if it was easier, there'd be more Black people that were CEOs, right? If it was easier, there'd be more women that are CEOs. So the fact of that experience in and of itself is a value.
Please welcome to the stage, Cynthia Marshall, CEO, Dallas Mavericks. Moderated by Tamika Anderson, Head Consumer Products and Retail Sector, U.S. Commercial Bank, Global and National Industries, Citi.
Hello, and welcome to Making the Impossible Possible Fireside Chat with Cynthia "Cint" Marshall, CEO of the Dallas Mavericks. Thank you all for joining us today. I am Tamika Anderson. I am a Managing Director and Head of Consumer Products and Retail Coverage for Citi's Commercial Bank. I am also a member of Citi's Executive Steering Committee for Citi Women, and I have the complete pleasure and honor of being the co-head for our global initiative, Black Women at Citi. I am so excited to have you join us today for what will be an incredible conversation. Cint Marshall has been a dynamic force for inclusion and diversity within the Mavericks organization and over a 36-year career at AT&T. When Cint was hired as the CEO of the Mavericks in March of 2018, she set her sights on culture transformation. Her vision was simple: for the Mavericks organization to be the NBA standard for inclusion and diversity. Cint's leadership style brought transparency and trust and values-based leadership that evolved the company in culture in her first 100 days. Please help me in welcoming Cint Marshall. Hi, Cint.
Hi, Tamika. How are you, sister? It's so good to see you.
I am doing very well. I'm doing well. I'm here in New York. The weather is great. We are seemingly coming out of this COVID pandemic, and so there are no complaints on my end.
That's right. We are making our way out. Yes, and we're having a great basketball season. We got three games left, 2 at home. So I'm excited about wrapping up the season and getting into the playoffs.
I was going to say the postseason is in sight.
Yes,
You know,
I can't wait. I can't wait. I love this team. I'm so proud of them. I love this team. Love our coach.
absolutely. And you all have a lot to be proud of, both on the court and off the court. And we're going to talk about that today.
Awesome. Let's do it.
I can't think of a better leader, at this time in our journey where we are as Black people, Black women, Black leaders, to really show us what it really means to have power at work. And to have this conversation is, it just simply is, it's great. I'm a firm believer in, if we can see it, we can be it. And when we see you sent, we know that we can be it. So with that, I know we don't have a lot of time today, but I want to jump right into our questions. Okay.
All right, let's do it, Sissy. Let's do it. And thank you.
Yeah. So you have openly shared your personal journey. You are no stranger with difficult environments and difficult situations. You've spoken very openly regarding growing up in low-income housing, witnessing domestic violence, surviving cancer. These are things that, one of them could set a person's back. You know about defying the odds and making the impossible possible. So looking back on your upbringing, what is it that you can share with us about that upbringing and your early career experience that really helped you prepare to lead in a challenging work environment, thrive, and transform the culture?
Oh, I love that question. Okay, you're just jumping right in. Okay, I love it. Okay, so when I think about, how I grew up, and I know, yes, I experienced a lot of that. I saw a lot of bad things, but I also experienced some very good things. And I had a mother who showed me resilience. She showed me grit. And fortunately for her 6 kids, she made education a priority. So I learned how to learn very early. I learned how to embrace new things very early in my life. And so when I look back over some of the adversity that I faced in my childhood, and when I look back at some of the things that happened to me early in my career, I have to think about the 4 words that are ingrained in me, that were ingrained in me by my mother and my educators and what I call the village early in life. And it's 4 words: dream, focus, pray, and act. And those are the things that I do to this day, just to have a big dream. And so when I stepped foot on Berkeley's campus and saw how big it was and knew I had to be big, that was a big dream for me. And so I even have dreams now, even for my employees, for my workplace. Focus was very big, just, weed out the distractions because bad things do happen. And so even when I got to the Mavs and, we had the scandal going on and all that, I got the team to really focus. Focus on that vision that you talked about, that vision of just being the global leader in diversity and inclusion, that vision of we will have a great place to work. So I got them to really focus. I always pray about everything because I always ask, 2 questions when I take on any challenge. And it's, these are the same questions that I heard, my mother asked: Lord, what is it that you want me to do, in this particular time? And who is it that you want me to touch? And it's that simple. And then take action. I was always taught that nothing is going to be handed to you, that you have to take action. And so, I'm big on the action now. One of my mottos is don't talk about it, be about it. So fortunately for me, I got a good education, learned how to learn. My zip code didn't matter. And so I try to accept all the people who work on my team. I just try to meet them where they are and just invest in the people the way people invested in me. I'm a living witness that sometimes, and I always say it, sometimes the light at the end of the tunnel is a train. Bad things do happen to good people. But if we accept adversity and never, ever, ever give up, and then have our hand out there so other people can pull us up, we'll be okay. We'll be okay.
Such a real answer, Sint. I mean, that vision, I mean, you just caught me, like, took my breath away when you said the light at the end of the tunnel is a train. And to be able to, I guess, stand in that and know that, yes, maybe it's an open field on the other side, or maybe it's just something really, really bad, but I'm going to have to stand here and get through it. That's powerful.
because we have to get through it. You know, my theme song, you probably know this, I'm sure. My theme song, my walk-up music, my theme song in life is Ain't No Mountain High Enough. And I love the Marvin Gaye, Tammy Terrell version, but also the Michael Madonna version. And of course, let's see, there's a few versions out there. So I like all of them, the Diana Ross version. But truly, when you think about the words to the song, it basically says, there's no mountain high enough to keep me from getting to you. And that's the story of my life. Every time I was down, people showed up. I mean, somebody showed up to get me up, which is one of the things I talk a lot about with women, especially as Black women. I call it the HASU moment, HASU, hook a sister up. We have to be there to hook each other up. Those HASU moments need to happen, and they need to happen often, and we need to respond to them because sometimes, honestly, we're all we have. And so it's all about being there for each other. Bad things do happen. We can't question and say, why me? Things happen. But we have us. We have the village, and we'll get through whatever happened. And that's been truly the story of my life. And that's what I tried to tell, or did tell my team when I got to the Mavs. We will get through this. We will be better on the other side of it. Sometimes it's a train. It's coming to run you over. But then there are people there to help you get right back up.
Yeah. So this idea, I love when you talk about having other people there to help you get back up. You know, we can't say it enough. It's in all the newspapers, all the magazines. You are the first Black woman CEO of an NBA team, hands down.
Is that crazy?
So, but that, you know, that is in itself, I'm sure some can characterize it as a lonely spot. But you know, it also is, you know, that being that first can also be an uncomfortable spot, right? And so how do you get comfortable? Like, how do you manage like any of the seeds of doubt or the imposter syndrome? Is it the hook a sister up, you know, sort of helping to prop you up? What are some of the things that you have done to really exist and get to a point of success sitting in that seat?
Okay, I love that question too. Okay, so first of all, usually when I'm the first, I don't know I'm the first. And I have a series of firsts in my life. The only time I probably knew I was the first is when I was in high school and I wanted to be senior class president. I wanted to stand up on the stage and call the names and give out the diplomas and all that because I saw these white guys do it at my sister's graduation. So I said, I want to do that. And they hadn't had a Black person or a Black woman. So I knew I was first in. All the other times after that, I never knew I was first and until somebody tells me. And so I never really feel like I am lonely. I might be alone right then. I might be the sole person that looks like me. But I truly, especially at this age, I value the sisterhood. I value my mentors, my sponsors. So I know I'm not by myself, that there's somebody there that's going to help me navigate. When you think about the imposter syndrome, I have to remind myself because I remember when Joyce Roche wrote her book, The Empress Has No Clothes. And Joyce is amazing. She's actually one of my mentors. And I had to think about that when I first read that book. I said, I've never really suffered from the imposter syndrome. And then the more I read the book, I'm like, yes, I have. Like, I truly have suffered from it. And so what I've done is I have to remind myself that, first of all, some really smart people hired me. Some really smart people put me in this room. Even like with Mark Cuban, he made history with me being the first Black female CEO of an NBA team, but he wasn't trying to make history. He was just trying to make a difference for his people. And so I was uniquely qualified to help come in and lead the effort to transform the culture, even though, yes, I was the first and the only. I had a job to do. And so I focus really on, and that's their word again, focus. I focus on the job that I have to do. I assert what I know. So I sometimes when I'm having those doubts, I stop and think about, okay, I bring something to this party. Like I actually bring something to this party, which is why they hired me and brought me in this party. And so I think about what I know and I assert what I know. I know what my expertise is, and I invite everybody to write down, what are you an expert at? What are you good at? What are your strengths? Because we all have them. And then I also know what I need to learn. And then I, even with what I need to learn, I think about, okay, do I want to learn it? Or do I surround myself with the experts? Because I can't know everything. And I'm big on surrounding myself with all the people around me who need to know kind of everything that needs to be known. And so I just tell myself I'm smart. I got it. I'm a Black woman. That is kind of like a double blessing. And let's do what we got to do.
No, I love your point on the not, knowing what I don't need to know, or choosing what I don't, want to go, and then kind of putting the people around me. Because I think, this imposter syndrome thing, it is something that I think over time, as you mature in your leadership and your skills and it shows up in very different forms. You even said yourself, like at a certain age, and you kind of look back, it's like, oh, maybe a little bit here and there.
Mhm.
But I think, what I'm getting at here is this. I know when I was younger, it was this idea. I felt like I needed to know everything. Like I need to know everything, soup to nuts. It was sort of this thing, and transitioning into a more senior leader, getting comfortable with, no, I don't have to know everything. I just need to know the person who knows it. And
Right.
so, and how we bring that team together. So I really appreciate that nugget. One of the things that a mentor once told me about this imposter syndrome, and it's a little controversial, but it's sort of like, well, you can't be you can't be an imposter in a room full of imposters. And what they were trying to get at was, everyone has something that they're perhaps a little insecure about, that they not quite sure about it. And so if you just assume, and I think this is again sent to your point of getting to know everyone around the table, if you know everyone around the table and sort of what their strengths are and what their shortcomings, it just becomes a easier place to exist. What do you think about that?
Yes, because we all bring something very different, and we bring something unique. I mean, that's why it's so great to have diversity and to have inclusive cultures where you just take all of that, just walking in the building or showing up at the screen, and you use it for the good of the organization and get everybody rallied around that mission. Sometimes I think we can get really hung up on this imposter syndrome thing. I was reading an article recently, and it talked about how we need to stop telling people that they have it, or they're, especially women, that they have it or they're suffering from it, because really it's exactly what you said. It's, you're in a room, and there are differences, and people have different knowledge levels, and there's some things that everybody around that table, they don't know. I mean, you could literally go around the whole table, you could go around the whole workplace and find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that people just don't know. And so and that's why I like to focus on, what is it that I do know? Some really smart people hired me, and they're paying me every day to bring something that they know that I could bring. And so I focus on that. And so even like the job I'm in now, I worked in telecommunications and technology and communications for 36 years.
Mhm.
I didn't know the business of basketball, but here it is. Mark Cuban is asking me to be his CEO. And when I talked about the fact that, yeah, I'm a big sports person and all that, but I don't know the business of basketball. And his response is, you know how to lead, you know how to transform cultures. And that's what he hired me to do. And I would learn the business of basketball. And so now I know the business of basketball. He's helped me learn it. The people around me have helped me learn it. The great thing is, when I got this job, my colleagues from around the league were all calling me, just offering advice and sharing their reports and all that with me. We have the other woman at the time, that I was the second, Gillian Zucker in Los Angeles, came out to one of the games and sat with me, showing me kind of her dashboards and all that. I mean, this was just what was happening to me. People kind of just told me what I needed to know, but I knew how to lead when I walked in there. And so that's what I focused on. There's stuff now that I don't know. I'm learning something about the business of basketball every day. And so I could stress out about everything I don't know, but there are people around the table, and now there's a diverse group of people around the table, unlike when I got there. And so between all of us, we know what we need to do to get it done.
Wow. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about before you got there, and then sort of that first 100 days, which is kind of well known across just business and obviously the NBA and the sports industry. You took some very courageous and bold action, like right out of the box. It was, a plan, it was decisive, and there was just honestly no wiggle room here. Like, what were some of those challenging decisions that you had to make to achieve the diversity that you wanted around the table? And what has been really the impact that you've seen on the culture with those changes?
I think Tamika, the first thing I had to do was realize it, and I don't think I realized it to the magnitude that it had to happen, was that I was going to have to almost completely purge an old culture while instilling a new one. You know, sometimes you can go in and you can make some tweaks and all that. This was beyond the tweak stage. We had to do what Mark asked me to do. We had to really transform the culture. And there were some people who didn't like that. I had this one guy who told his team not to listen to me because, you know, I come in, I lay out this vision that we're going to set the global standard in the MBA for diversity and inclusion. And I started there because I believe in the diversity dividend. I truly believe that our business will be better, we'll make money, we'll serve our customers better, the employees will be engaged, all of that, if we truly focus on a holistic diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda. So I come in there with that agenda. I lay out a set of values: character, respect, authenticity, fairness, teamwork, safety, both physical and emotional safety. Say these are our crafts. So this is how we will operate. And to your point, then I come with this 100-day plan. There was in 4 major parts: model zero tolerance, so everything that we needed to do around that, the hotline, just how we report things, the speak up culture, all that. The second piece was a Mavs women's agenda. We laid out a women's agenda, an agenda to educate, empower, elevate women, because obviously there was no focus on that. There were 10 white men in leadership at the Dallas Mavericks when I got there in permanent leadership positions. So I laid out kind of the values. I diversified my team. So very quickly we ended up with 50% women, 50% people of color at the table. So that was all part of that plan. That was part of the culture transformation piece. So it was the model zero tolerance, the women's agenda, the culture transformation piece that really dug in on DE&I, employee engagement, the culture, who are we? What's our brand? All of that. And then just basic operational effectiveness, how we pay people, market-based compensation, making sure we take care of any pay equity issues. So just basic stuff. And then there were 200 initiatives that went along with that. And so, very transparent about it, put it on big, boards and all that. So you're right, it's kind of famous now, and said, we're going to rally. All of us are going to come together around this 100-day plan. And I had a one-on-one meeting with every single employee in the organization. So we had momentum. We were kind of like off and running. And then I noticed that there was one group in particular not working with us. And that's because their boss told them not to respond, not to participate in any of the committees and the things that we were doing, because I would not last 90 days, that it was some big PR move and that I wasn't going to last. I just celebrated my 4th anniversary with the Mavs. He was gone within, a few months.
I was going to say, need I ask where he is today?
He is not at the Mavs. And, and it's just unfortunate that I had to kind of help walk a lot of the leaders to the door. And I always say I've never fired anybody in my whole 41-year professional career. People do that to themselves. But as leaders, we have to make the hard decisions, and we have to help people exit if they are toxic to the culture and if they aren't taking care of their people. Tamika, I have something I call the 3 L's, and I live by it, and I expect the leaders around my table to live by it. In order to be an effective leader, there are only 3 things really at the end of the day. Is simple. There are only 3 things that I need to do as a leader to be effective. I need to listen to my people, I need to learn from my people, and then I need to love them and truly love them as people. Listen to them, learn from them, and love them. And so especially the love them part. And if I have leaders that don't want to do that, they can't stay around the table. I mean, these people I learned in our one-on-ones, these people had just big dreams about having a career in sports, a career in entertainment. And so my job was to help create a great place to work and give them the wonderful careers that they wanted to have. And so people who couldn't buy into that, and they couldn't buy into the plan, and they were part of the problem, then we had to take care of that.
Right. No. That's fantastic. It is, certainly significant in terms of just the diverse, composition, as you say, around the table, but then and also the culture in terms of people having a vested sort of really interest in the work that they're doing, the organization they're in, and feeling if the organization is investing in them, and getting that different result. We've done, at City, we have somewhat of a similar, experience in terms of, we're the only, kind of Wall Street bank to actually publish our representation, our goals, as well as our pay gap. And so, we have, done a lot. We've met those. We met them this year. We had set the target for, yes, for 2022, and we're in the process of setting a whole new set of goals, building on the ones that we've already met, but then also expanding them to other sort of pillars of diversity. And
congratulations, congratulations.
Yeah, we're very serious, and we're seeing a lot of changes. We're proud to say, just even a few weeks ago, we had our first, Black woman on our executive management team, promoted to our executive management team, TT Cole. So super excited about to have, that sort of diversity really around the table. I noted our Jane Frazier, our CEO. So we are walking, the walk, and not only talking it. So I just had to share that because it's great to have our two organizations, speaking here today.
It is. It's a great story, and transparency matters.
Yes.
Representation matters.
Yes.
And then you get everybody rallied around it because they can see what the results are. They have the vision. They can see where we're trying to go. And then it's all of our jobs. I mean, it's on all of us. And it sounds like you all have what we put together at the Mavericks. It was a holistic diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda. So, and it also spells crafts. It's around customers, our reputation as a great place to work, our agenda for women, family in terms of home, community, and work, even, looking at where our philanthropic dollars are going, talent. And so often the focus is only on talent, but it has to be on all of it. And then the S is for suppliers and sponsors. And so when I laid that out, I said, we're going to make sure we have diversity and we are equitable in all of these areas. So it's not just talent. It is soup to nuts. We will be an inclusive organization. So our workplace promise is, if you work at the Dallas Mavericks, it's a place where every voice matters and everybody belongs. And it goes all the way back to my one-on-ones with every single employee. I would start out with the same statement. I would call the employees in, and of course, we're in a crisis and all that, right? So I call them in and I'd say, okay, give me your whole life story. And Tamika, they would come back and say, oh, this is my 5th season at the Mavs, or this is my 10th season at the Mavs. I said, were you born here? I want to know your story. I want to know who is sitting in front of me, because that's the person that, as a leader, I need to be able to meet. I got to meet them where they are when they get there. So I got to know who you are. So then they tell me their story, but they were all surprised. They were so surprised that I even wanted to know it. And so then we'd go through all kind of other stuff. And then at the end of our time together, I would say, okay, tell me where you see yourself 5 years from now, personally and professionally. And that really gave me insight into who was sitting in front of me. And then one day I called in some of the folks, and I brought 2-3 women in with me. I couldn't just show up, by myself. So I didn't know what I was getting into. So I brought these sisters with me, and I basically called them in one night, and I was in tears. Tamika, I was crying. And I said, you know what, just how we chose to have a career in communications, these people chose to have a career in sports. They chose the Dallas Mavericks. And I need to know if you're all in, because I am so all in on making this a great place to work and serving these people. And so if you're not all in, you can just tell me now, it's okay, but we got work to do. And we're going to have to do some purging of people and the culture, but we got some work to do. We can make this a great place to work. And so I'm just happy to say the last 2 times that the NBA gave out their Inclusion Leadership Award, they gave it to the Dallas Mavericks. We have created a place to work.
Congratulations on that. There are so many things, what you just said, I could just kind of go on and on about just the idea of, your approach. It is, people feel seen. And I think that is something uniquely, obviously, that you bring as a leader. But I have to go out and say, I think as a Black woman, it is that sort of that, we're often the unseen, right? Really in society. And so with you being in that leadership seat, you make a choice to see everyone. And
Yes.
so that is your power, right? At work, your special power.
I love the fact that you use the word choice, because when I'm often asked to describe kind of what's the difference between diversity and inclusion. And so, I kind of give the standard, diversity is about the mix. It's about all of our differences. Some dimensions you can see, some dimensions of diversity you can't see. But then inclusion is about what you do with that mix. Diversity is about counting the numbers. Inclusion is about making the numbers count. But one of my favorites, other than, diversity is being invited to the party, inclusion is being asked to dance, is diversity is a fact. Okay. You're a Black woman. I'm a Black woman. All the different dimensions of diversity, that's a fact. But inclusion is a choice. We have to make a decision that we're going to have an inclusive work environment, that we're going to have an inclusive culture, that every voice really does matter. And all these people here really do belong, and all the things and the unique abilities and backgrounds and cultures and baggage that they have, it all shows up, and all that's okay. We make a conscious decision as leaders that we're going to include that. And so often as Black women, we've been the recipient of people who have just decided they're not going to include it. That yes, we might be a check mark at the table and we might be invited to the party, but we're definitely not going to teach you the rules. We're not going to teach you the dance moves. We're not going to let you know what really goes on, behind the scenes and all that, but you can just sit here and be a check mark. No, we have to demand that we are included, but as leaders, we have to create that culture, because the tone starts at the top and it's a choice. So I'm sorry, you got me going. When you said choice, I'm like, yeah, it is a choice. It is a choice.
No, I love it. I love it. It's, well, I'll move on, but it's, the idea, and you alluded to it, you talked about the women that you invited into your closed conversation where you shed a few tears. And, this idea of making the impossible possible is not a solo journey. And you talked about that, through your comments in our chat today. I like to say things like success is a team sport, right? It does really take a team. And so along the way, I'm sure that you have garnered, sort of some ways and built trust with a lot of people. What do you believe are sort of some of the keys to how you built that trust that help you to not only build a successful career, but really sustain it? I mean, you're going into 4 decades here. So and making a huge career change.
I wish you could see our pyramid. And you can just see it just a little bit, okay? Yep. And it has like our strategic areas of focus. But we have a pyramid that kind of describes kind of who we are at the MAVs. And then we have our focus areas for the year and all that stuff, and our values and all that. And so on the left side of the pyramid going up, it says ROI is a critical measure of our success, okay? Because at the end of the day, we got to have a return on investment and we've got to be profitable. Coming down the right side. So that's the left side. Coming down the right side, it said agility is key to our success. And that was pre-COVID. I'm big on being agile. We got to be able to pivot on a dime because things happen all the time. And fortunately, we had to focus on that even pre-COVID. But then what's on the base of this pyramid, and it's in bold, it says trust accelerates. Can you see that? Trust accelerates our success. Because when there's a book, obviously by Stephen M. R. Covey, The Speed of Trust. Mm-hmm. Trust really does allow you to operate faster. And so I love this question because I take the time to try to build it. So having the one-on-ones with every single employee and having them understand that I really cared about them, and then having them ask for certain things and identify certain things, and then delivering on that. That is a way to build trust, is to do what I say I'm going to do, to listen to them, to learn from them, and then to respond to their needs. To encourage that speak up culture, to let them know, you know what, you can speak up around here. Your voice actually matters. And then to have their back when they do, to make sure there's not retaliation, to really have their back, to include them. I mean, so I do all of that. We do a service project together. So, obviously the team, we have our, tip off, luncheon, and then we have our first game of the season, right? Usually in October. And so what I do in September is I tip off the season on the business side, and the players they get invited. They are included as well. We do a service project because I figured if we can serve together, we can work together, we can trust each other. So we did one on Habitat for Humanity. I'm like, okay, we're going to build this house together. I got to be able to trust that when you got that hammer and you're hitting that nail, that you are doing that. Okay. I got to be able to trust that you are doing your part of it, because at the end of the day, we need this house to stand up. And so we spend a lot of time serving together so we can also build that trust. So we do a lot. We do a lot around trust.
I love that. Trust accelerates our success.
And we call it out when we think it is not happening. I was on a call yesterday where they felt like somebody was not being trustworthy and some things came out, and they called it out. They said, okay, you're slowing us down now because trust accelerates our success. And so now we got to back up because we couldn't trust you. So we call each other out on it as well when it's not happening.
That transparency, how important. You know, the ELC is really known for its intentional focus on celebrating career successes. And I mean, obviously in this conversation today, we celebrate you and all your many successes, and particularly barrier and glass breaking. But we learn even more from our mistakes and setbacks. We want to know about what we're going to term as your best mistake. And that is, what is that best mistake? You know, something that turned out differently than you planned, but yet it was like the biggest learning moment.
Oh my goodness, that's so easy for me to identify.
Okay.
My best mistake was I got promoted into this big job. So a long time ago was that I was in operations for our company. I worked all over AT&T, line staff, technical, non-technical, and so I had this big technical job, one of the first again, right? And I'm about, let's see, I want to say I'm 9 years into my career at this point. So huge director job. I've got all these assignment, installation, maintenance people, the folks who climb poles. I had actually even gone to pole climbing school so I could really understand what our folks were going through all the time. I mean, so I was into this job.
I'm gonna come back to that pole climbing.
Oh yeah, I have my boots and my tool belt still in my garage. The union was so impressed. The union leaders, they showed up to my last day when I graduated from pole climbing.
I love it. I love it. I'm sorry. You just blow my mind all the time, Sid.
I mean, I didn't even have to go. I mean, I have like a second level managers, first level managers, and then the technician. Okay. So, but I wanted to know. I mean, it's my way of getting to understand what they're going through every day and then spend time with them. Right. So I would literally do my ride days out in the field with them, which is getting to my point. So I was out there with them all the time. I said, I don't want to just be out there riding with them. I mean, I want to do stuff with them. I mean, all that. And so I was spending probably 90% of my time, if not more, out in the field. I said, I got to get to know these people. So I know the technicians, their bosses. Like I got to be out here with the people. And so I had this motto at the time that was ridiculous, but it was my motto. I can admit it. I said, I do my people work by day and my paperwork by night, meaning all my other stuff, the other parts of my job that weren't all people related, that was kind of afterthought. I would do that either when I got home, and then if I was too tired, I would let it go. And so I wasn't doing the whole job as a leader. Now keep in mind, this is a big job, my first big director job. And so, but I wasn't doing the whole job. I was doing the people because I just kind of decided what was important, even though it was clear what all had to be done in that job. And so one night, Tamika, I was looking at some reports and I found something that I didn't like. It was an anomaly around some ethical reporting and expenses and all that. And so I discovered the problem. Like I found the problem when I said, I think we got an issue here. So expose it all. But then I ended up getting in trouble. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I didn't cause this. I didn't take this action. I actually found this problem. But I would have found the problem much sooner. I mean, I would have found it probably a year sooner had I really been doing the whole job. Had I taken some time to actually prioritize the reporting piece, the reviews that I had to do, the audits that I had to do. And so my big learning was there's a whole job that has to be done. And we can't just pick and choose, especially as leaders, what piece of the job we're going to do. There's a whole job that has to be done. And we've got to integrate it and balance it and do that whole job. And so I learned that the hard way. I mean, literally, I learned it the hard way. Fortunately for me, I have been in a job a little while, so it was time to change jobs, and we did. I did get a change after that. And so at first, I didn't want to like really accept accountability for it because it was this person who had taken the action, the inappropriate action. But as a leader, I had to be accountable for the fact that I should have been on top of that and would have been on top of it had I been doing the whole job and not just the piece that I liked and or loved and the piece that I thought was the most important piece. There was a whole job to be done. And so I'm a stickler for it now. I come in, I want to know the scope of the job. I got a plan to do the whole job. And it's not that I'm doing my people work by day and the paperwork by night. I'm just integrating it all and doing the job I need to do. But I learned it the hard way.
Wow. What a great self-reflection and just self-awareness in terms of the journey of taking that ownership, right? In terms of the accountability and realizing that, yes, while you weren't responsible and you weren't the one that did the actual action, but the accountability and what comes with leadership. A great takeaway, for that. So we are just about at our time. And
no,
I know.
We're not leaving. Tom, no, we're not leaving.
I know. We will have to definitely do this again, and I want to do it in person.
Yes.
So we'll have to, I trust that life will allow our paths to like intersect at another point. But before we go, I want to, maybe just take a bit of a moment. Like you, obviously you do the whole job, you have a big job, you have a family and lots of demands. Like, what are some of the things that you do to recharge and rejuvenate yourself? Because, as Black women, we will run it and press it all the way, to the end. How do you recharge?
Okay, so you're right. I do have kids. I have 4 adult kids. And part of recharging is just hanging out with them. Like I have a son who lives in Marina Del Rey, California.
Ooh.
We'll just go out, get a hotel. I don't want to stand there with him, this little French bulldog. Okay, so we'll get a hotel and we'll just hang out on the water with him. I love the water. And so I love to go to the Bahamas. And I haven't been able to go for the past 2 years because of COVID. And so at one point I just started shaking. I'm like, I have to get to the cove in the Atlantis and just look at the blue water and lay out in the cabana because that's when I just totally shut it off. I will just get a book and just go anywhere in a book. And so I like my relaxation time. I also, I'm a big shoe shopper. Okay, so I like to just kind of decompress and buy my shoes. And then I love community service that actually recharges me. I am the chair of the board for Dallas CASA, so court appointed special advocates. Right now, I am so into researching this whole issue on disproportionality and the fact that like in Dallas County, 46 Black kids represent 22% of the kids in the county, but they represent like 40, I think it's like 43% now. It was 46% of the kids in foster care. I am into that whole issue right now. Like, what is that about? And that actually just recharges my spirit to dig into things like that can really help this whole issue of permanence and stability for our kids. That is not work to me. When I'm doing my Dallas CASA stuff, I love it. And I'm a CASA volunteer. So I have 3 CASA kids and they just moved from Texas to California. So when I go out to see them, I come back so energized because I'm part of a group of people that's helping to serve and save these kids. That feeds my soul. It just feeds my spirit. So between the Bahamas, hanging out with my kids, securing permanence and stability for other kids, and buying my shoes, I'm good.
Very well. And that's well balanced. I get that. I want to thank you for your time today and certainly thank our audience for joining us. When I was preparing for our conversation, I ran across a quote and it said that the difference between the impossible and the possible lies in a person's determination. And after speaking with you today, I want to sort of rework that a bit and say, really the difference between the impossible and the possible lies in a person's focus, talent, and determination. Thank you so much, Cint, for your time today, and just incredibly, congratulations on all that you are doing and will continue to do for the Dallas Mavericks organization and the entire NBA franchise, because I know folks are watching, and you are certainly the blueprint for success.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Diversity.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time, and I'm so proud of you. Please know how proud I am of you. I feel like I can pass the baton. So keep doing what you're doing, sister. And I'm glad we had this time together. Go Mavs, go ELC.
Go Mavs, go ELC. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.